Well, welcome everybody. We're so glad that you could join us this evening for Recovery is Happening's Recovery Community Listening Forum. We have a sign-up sheet that will be going around. If you would like to sign up to share some of your experience with recovery, your family's experience with recovery, or barriers that have been placed in your life because of addiction, you're welcome to come up and speak tonight. So thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Tiffany Hunsley, and I am the Executive Director of Recovery is Happening. I am also a woman in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is that I get to be a good mom today. I get to be an employee, a friend. I get to show others that recovery is real. I speak out loudly and proudly about my recovery because I am living proof that recovery happens. I'd like to introduce to you my co-worker, Phil Rutherford.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Phil Rutherford. I'm also a person living in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that today I'm a better father, a better husband. I'm a registered voter, a taxpayer. I participate in my community. And recovery has basically changed every single facet of my life. And I also have the blessing to work for the organization Recovery is Happening. And one of the things that I think is important to me is that I'm also not anonymous. I'm part of a vibrant existing recovery community. It's already present in most cities and states. And part of what I believe our mission is to pull back the curtain. Obviously, with people's permission, and I never talk about other people's recovery, but my own personal recovery, I'd like to be very public about it, because I believe that there's plenty of public information about the downside of substance use disorder. I don't think there's anyone in here that hasn't seen a news article that says alcoholic plows into family of 6 or bad things happen because of substance use. Part of what we do is talk about what happens when the process of recovery takes hold, and in my life it's made a complete difference. So.
Thank you. And I'd also like you to meet Recovery is Happening's assistant, Alyssa Toyer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Toyer, and I'm the assistant at Recovery is Happening. And I, too, am a woman living in long-term recovery. And what that means to me today as Tiffany, today I get to be connected. I get to be connected to my children. I'm connected to my family, and I feel that connection today, and I appreciate that connection. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a good employee today, and I am a registered voter, and I do pay my taxes and my bills on time today. And I have the largest blessing to be able to work with these two in this recovery community organization to show other people that, like William White says, by our silence I allow others to define me, and I choose. And today I choose to speak out, like Tiffany said, with one voice, loudly and proudly, about the benefits that my recovery has given me. Because it has not just benefited me, it has benefited my family, my community, and the organization I work for. And I'm just really grateful to be here with all of you. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
So over the past few months, Recovery is Happening has been tasked with doing a community needs and readiness assessment. And during that time, we started in Dodge, Fillmore, and Olmsted County and held an event like this. And since then, we've moved on to Goodhue, Houston, Wabasha, and Winona County. And so what we'd like to share with you now are the results from the community needs assessment that we have been putting into place. And so an overview of what we'll be talking about is the methods that we used to carry this out, the dimensions, the stages of readiness, and then we'll talk about the results from our findings.
Tiff, could you hold 1 second? Let's move these tables out so they're not. Yeah. Better when you get the next screen.
So the methods that we used And during the time that we did this, we pulled over 125 individuals from the Goodhue, Winona, Wabasha, and Houston counties. We looked at 6 areas. We looked at government, involved citizens, law, business, education, and health. We did 3 interview styles. We did a brief interview within the community, randomly, grocery stores, gas stations, different places where it wasn't people that we knew. And we did extended interviews, in-depth interviews, senior level positions, and then we did a University of Colorado model style interview. So the community knowledge of the efforts is one of the things we were looking at. The leadership within those communities, the community climate, and the community knowledge of the issue. We also were looking at the resources that those communities had within them. The stages of readiness here is where we would look at where a community would fall into. Having no awareness at all, being in denial, resistance, having vague awareness, being in the pre-planning stages, preparation, initiation, stabilization, expansion and confirmation, and community ownership. Now, Phil likes to give an example of community ownership.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if this is as true here, but is there a food shelf in these counties, in the 4 counties? And actually, I know that Channel 1 has some presence, but is there another food shelf other than Channel 1?
Wabasha and one hospital.
Why do we need a food shelf?
Hungry.
Right. And what do food shelves do? They provide food, right? Is anyone unclear why we would need a food shelf? No? That's community ownership. The community understands and not necessarily embraces, but at least understands that feeding the hungry is something of value, and it's something that as a community we have a responsibility to do. That's ownership of a thing, and I can't take credit for that. My wife actually came up with that example. I was like, I need a good example for community ownership. She said, well, what about Channel 1? Because everyone knows what they are. So, but that's what community ownership is, and one of the reasons that. So this model came from, Tiffany mentioned the University of Colorado style interviews. This model came from, the University of Colorado has an entire plan on how to go about doing community assessments. And yes, they're way in Colorado, but they kind of have it broken out into sort of urban, rural, and different areas. So they've got some experience at how to look at community readiness and how to assess it. And the thing that we found in Dodge, Fillmore, and Olmsted is it was pretty much right on. It was pretty much like when we got done with the presentation, people were like, yeah, I guess that's about where we are. So I'm hoping for that kind of response here. If you're mad at me, please don't throw anything or that.
So in those 5 areas that we looked at, the community knowledge, that's looking at how much does the community know about the current problems and activities. For leadership, we look at what are their attitudes towards addressing this issue. For community climate, we look at the community's attitude towards addressing the problem. And then for the community knowledge, how much does the community know about recovery? And the resources are what resources are being used to address this issue within the communities that we're studying.
So I've got some data. And this data comes from the interviews that we did, and we asked some simple questions, and we did two types of data. So quantitative data, which is basically yes, no, rate this on a scale of 1 through 5. We did a lot of interviews like that, and then qualitative data or qualitative interviews where we say, well, tell me more about the recovery environment in Wabasha County, or tell me about what services you know about. And we kind of mix those two groups of data together, but just the numbers say that 73% of the people we asked believed that there was a problem with alcohol and other drugs in the community. Of that, 73%, 61% said that those problems affected you. What's interesting about these numbers, and I don't have the Dodge Fillmore Olmsted numbers in here, but there was actually, the Dodge Fillmore Olmsted numbers were higher for is there a problem, but it was lower for how those problems have affected you. So, and we can't, you can't always say that that means something, but it sounds, the data looks like people are being more heavily affected here. Not necessarily, there may not be as much awareness about it, but the people that are aware of a pretty significant effect. So other respondents, 55% said that they were moderately to extremely affected by problems, and that data comes from a question that says, can you rate on a scale of 0 to 5 how severely you were affected? And we say moderately to extremely because anyone that answered 3 to 5 falls into that category. 55% of the people said that. 38% rated the effects as extreme, also higher than other counties that we've looked at. Overall, 62% of the people surveyed had less than average confidence in recovery options available. And I suppose as we talk, we can kind of get through that. But the low confidence data, well, that's not good, right? We want people to have some faith in the services that are available, and they're really we didn't see that represented in the interviews we did. If there are any nerds in the room, the sampling method that we used was random. So I'm sure that it is. We've had this conversation as an organization that maybe there were pockets of people that were really motivated, completely understood recovery, were completely supportive of it that we missed. Sometimes that happens with random sampling, but that's why they call it random, I guess. So, what does all that mean? Okay, so this is the part where I said, no one throw anything, don't get mad at me. I'm simply, don't shoot the messenger, all of that. We looked at an aggregate of all of the both quantitative and qualitative interviews that we did, and the results that we got were these scores. And these numbers may not mean anything to you, but I'll show you on the rating chart what that means in terms of readiness. But and they all vacillated in the 3 to almost 4 area. The interesting thing about resources is, just from a population standpoint, there are not as many resources in these counties. But we also found that people in these counties were using other counties' resources too. Like some people that were closer to Olmsted were using those. People closer to Wisconsin were using some resources in those counties. So it's I don't know that resources means there's a ton of resources in these 4 counties as much as it means that there are resources around. So those are the scores. What that for a readiness average of 3.5. What that means is that according to this model, that places you between vague awareness and pre-planning. And just to give some depth of understanding about what they're saying vague awareness is, and that is a few community members have heard about local efforts but don't know a ton about them. Leadership and community members believe that this issue is a concern, and I think we're all clear on that. And there's a lot of people in the room, so obviously the community thinks that there's something to talk about here. But community members only have vague knowledge, that they may have awareness. And I think just one of the examples that I can give from some of the talks that I had in Winona County, again, don't be mad at me if you're from Winona County, was that it was the environment in the town was pretty much if you showed up for work on time, you didn't have a problem. If you could get to the plant and work, whether or not you drank a liter or a beer, if you got to work on time, you did not have a problem with substances. And that's an awareness piece, right? Because we know that, I don't know that everyone knows, but those of us that are in recovery know that it doesn't necessarily matter how much you drink, it's what it causes in your life. So this, and the thing is, you guys, the county showed up with between 3 and 4. This is where 3 is, 4 is pre-planning. So community members have heard about local efforts, don't necessarily know a ton about them. Leadership and community members acknowledge this is a concern. Community members have some knowledge or limited knowledge, and there are limited resources. So the underlying factor is this is important, what do we do? And I think that's why we're here, is to talk about what do we do. So, and you know what, actually we're going to come back to this slide. We got to sell you some more stuff first, then we'll come back to what we want you to do. I would like to, and I don't know how the sound is going to work on coming out of that projector, but I do want to, can I see show of hands how many people have seen the film The Anonymous People? Okay, so a good number, but I'm just going to show a quick trailer of a film called The Anonymous People that talks a little bit more about what recovery community organizations are and kind of how we function.
Whether we want to admit this or not, this is our Black Plague.
There's 25 million people that suffer from this. We have an epidemic.
The national crisis that untreated addiction cost our economy over $550 billion last year.
It is disgraceful that we have done so little about it thus far.
Once you're an addict, you're that thing that they have to have. So many people think of addicts as homeless people living under bridges. The media is difficult for us to battle against because the negative news about addiction is dramatic.
You know what we in the media do? We wink it. We Snoop Dogg it. Hey, oh yeah, they're stoned. That's fine.
If everyone thinks of alcoholism and addiction as a negative thing, no one's going to want to go get help.
As a culture, we are still very rooted in just say no.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're going to try to incarcerate our way out of the addiction problem. Our jails are full of addicts and alcoholics. They're all pulled up in one spot.
When you're caught, you will do time.
Recovery is what you need, not prison. Hello?
Alcoholism has too long been a taboo subject.
The shame and secrecy are just as deadly as the disease itself.
Our numbers are unbelievably strong, but yet we have no voice.
We know about every issue out there, but people don't know how important the issue of recovery is. As a person in long-term recovery from an illness that has no cure, but an illness that has a solution.
If we could ever tap those 20 million people in long-term recovery, you change this overnight.
Now it's my turn to teach you that recovery works. History's on our side. History will show one day who and what we are. So I say we make history.
Voices are out there. We have to find and open the hearts. And I think those hearts want to be open.
I refuse to feel ashamed of who I am. I most certainly will not be embarrassed that I'm an addict. I'm going to tell whoever I damn well want to.
There's a lot of us. Everyone knows somebody.
So like Tiffany said, that is available on Netflix. And I think at this point we're going to do introductions.
Yeah. So I'd like to take some time and introduce our panel that's here with us this evening. From Winona County, we have the County Attorney, Karen Sonneman. Karen, a former 3rd Judicial District Assistant Public Defender for 20 years, was elected to the office of Winona County Attorney in November 2010 and re-elected in 2014. Karen brings extensive experience in criminal, juvenile delinquency, child protection law, and controlled substance issues to Winona County. Besides being the Chief Criminal Prosecutor for Winona County, Karen is currently the chairperson of the Winona County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and was on the planning, development, and implementation team that established the drug court for Winona County in 2012, of which she is also a team member. with us tonight Winona County Sheriff Ron Gandrud. Sheriff Gandrud is 55 years old and has been married for 34 years and is the father of 3 beautiful children and 2 grandchildren. He helps to enhance and protect the Winona County community and brings 35 years of law enforcement experience, consisting of 29 years with Winona County Sheriff's Office, 16 years as the County Deputy of Winona County, and took office as Winona County Sheriff in January of 2015. Sheriff Gandrud oversees Winona's deputies, dispatchers, and volunteers on the dive and rescue, SOAR teams, as well as a 35-bed jail, a 45-bed annex, and the dispatcher center. Wabasha County Judge Terry Walters. Judge Walters was appointed to the bench 12 years ago after a 25-year career practicing criminal law. He was fortunate enough to come into a situation in which my predecessor and the other justice partners in Wabasha County had already set in motion the events which would lead to the formation of the Wabasha County Substance Abuse Court, one of the first drug courts in this part of the state. After attending trainings throughout 2004, the program became operational in January 2005. I've been the presiding judge of this program since.
Can I just point out that I'm not sure why, but judges always get better applause than other people. I don't know what that means, but judges always get the best set of applause. Sorry.
We get the other kind, too.
You get the other.
Next, we have Wabasha County Attorney Carrie Kelly. She is the newly elected Wabasha County Attorney. She has been a prosecutor for 25 years and a member of the Wabasha County Substance Abuse Court Program since its inception in January of 2005. Next, we have Wabasha County Sheriff Rodney Barsh. Sheriff Barsh has been serving Wabasha County for 12 years plus and has been in law enforcement for 26 years. He is the current chair of the Southeastern Minnesota Narcotics Task Force and is also a member of the advisory board for the Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge program in Rochester, Minnesota. And Roxanne Barsh was unable to be with us this evening. All right, well, what we're going to do now, I would like to just share about doing the community needs assessment and doing those interviews and talking with the community and the experience that we had with doing that. And so the program that we heard about most often during that time was the drug courts. And so the community has an awareness of that program and the work that that program is doing in both Wabasha and in Winona County. And I would also like to share that my experience in recovery began with drug court. So at the inception in 2005, I was one of the first members accepted into the Wabasha County Drug Court. At that time, prior to that, I had spent years trapped in my addiction, unable to see how that had led me to neglecting my children. What I thought was the worst day of my life ended up being a blessing in disguise. And so on July 27, 2004, my house was raided and my children were taken away. And I was held in jail until that January 2005. I was given treatment in a halfway house during that time, and then I began my life in the drug court program. Through the drug court program, I began to be able to learn about recovery, and I began to learn that the recovery wasn't happening for me in that jail cell. The recovery wasn't happening for me until I started becoming a part of my community. I started to belong. I started to learn that there were people that accepted me and that I was valued by others. The drug court program set forth options and opportunities for me to become involved with my community. And through that involvement, I became engaged. And through that engagement, I became hungry to want to do more for my community. And so being encouraged through drug court to go to college, which I did not believe. I thought you had to do what drug court told you. So since I couldn't get a job, I applied to college. And it was a good idea, but I didn't think they'd actually accept me. And they did. And those are some of the phases that we go through when we learn to love ourselves. And we learn to get placed with people who are willing to love us until we learn to do that for ourselves. And through college, I began to understand that I'm not only can go to college, I'm actually smart. And I began to learn, and I began to want to know more and do more. And through that experience and going to college, I was offered opportunities. One came from the drug court in an application to become a member on the Children's Justice Initiative, an alcohol and other drug project, as a parent who had lived through the system. They were looking for someone with lived experience to be on their team at a state level to share that experience and how it might help the system to better understand addiction and how they might better be able to support us in recovery. And through that avenue, I have been doing advocacy work ever since. So I have been speaking out about my recovery in my neighborhood, in newspapers, in magazines, in the mall, wherever I go and someone's willing to talk about it, I share. Because through my sharing, others gain hope and they know that there's another way to live. So I would like to give the opportunity for community members to come forward and share with the panel their experience with recovery. Thank you.
We did have a speaker sign-up list floating around. Oh,
My name is Wayne Adrian. I'm a man living in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I no longer have to lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate my way through life. I, too, was a member of the Wabasha County Substance Abuse Court in 2008. It was a big turning point in my life. I accepted the drug court program because I didn't want to go to prison. I really had no intentions on being sober. I went to treatment, which I learned a lot about myself. And I started seeing, I had to go to these groups and have a slip sign so I didn't get in trouble, because I didn't want to get in trouble anymore. And I started seeing people having fun in the recovery community. And I didn't have any friends left because I burnt all them bridges. And I lived in a family that was still in active use. So it was pretty lonely, so I didn't really have anywhere to turn. And I started seeing people having fun and going on fishing trips and doing all these big events. I never knew they existed. I really didn't. Since then, my goals that I had kind of set in treatment, I've far exceeded. I've got an opportunity to try to break the cycle of addiction and alcoholism in my family. And I show strong recovery to my children, and all the people that come around my house now are in the recovery community. My family is now starting to become a part of the recovery community. It's changed my life. You know, I was in front of this panel in my troubled times in different areas. Thank you.
Next we have Lisa Jensen.
Hi, my name is Lisa Jensen, and I am also a woman living in long-term recovery. And what that means for me today is that my children respect me again. I have the opportunity to talk to them again. They don't wonder where I'm at in the middle of the night because I was a homeless drug addict on the streets of Minneapolis. I was fortunate enough to get pulled over by a drug task force officer who had rattled off a lot of charges on me and then decided to release me and looked me right in the eyes and said, go to treatment and get some help because you're going to die out here. And that was the first time that I really ever heard that. You know, that I thought that anybody really cared enough for me to get help, because I didn't care enough about myself. When you're really at the bottom like that, you need somebody to care about you more than you care about yourself for you to even understand where you need to go to try to get the help that you need to become just a normal, everyday person in society again. I had been to treatment a couple of times before that. I was put in like 28-day programs, and they didn't work out real well for me. But something about that agent, you know, telling me to go get help, and I knew he was right. And a couple days later, I went in and I did a Rule 25 assessment. And I found the right person that cared enough about me to know that what I needed was long-term inpatient treatment. 28 days is not long enough for treatment. I completed 7 months of treatments, which is a huge success for me. And I'm still learning every day how to live and how to live life on life's terms and to be a productive member of the society and to be respected. Luckily, the right people were placed in my path all along that guided me and you know, instructed me on what to do next, because I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know how to turn my life around. I didn't know that I needed to change everything. I'd never been told that before. And so I didn't change everything, and then it wasn't possible for me to, you know, succeed in my mission to have some sort of recovery. So I'm fortunate, and I am grateful to all of the people that were placed in my path that knew what I needed, because I had no idea what I needed. And unfortunately, you know, I hadn't had that in the past. So I'm really glad that I found somebody who knew what I needed and when I needed it and cared enough to get me into the programs that helped me get it. I'm really grateful to be here with all you guys today. Thank you.
Ann Alden.
Hi, my name's Ann Alden. I'm a person living in long-term recovery. And I was thinking about what I should say. I don't really know what I should say, but I do know from my own experience. I came in to the end of my using in 1988, and I was a teenager looking for help. And being a teenager suffering from addiction looking for help is a very tough spot to be in. Everybody you seek, the same people you seek, the governmental people you seek, there's liability issues, at least there were then, as far as being offered assistance. And so trying to clean up my act as a teenager in Olmsted County was intensely difficult then. I think it might be a little bit easier now, but I don't know. I know that as a result of being in long-term recovery, I've had the opportunity to raise a kid stone cold sober the entire time, which is weird. Anybody who has kids knows that could be a source to use. At least a good cocktail after teenage years. Anyways. And because of that, though, my son doesn't have to suffer from addiction today. It's been every generation in my family, as far back as we can trace. My son doesn't have to suffer. His uncle died from this disease. His grandmother died from this disease. All of his grandparents died from this. And he's raising a little girl, not bound by the prison of addiction. And community resources need to be out there. Families need to be invited into, like Phil was saying, pulling the veil back. Places where the shame is lifted, so whole families can be part of this. Even if the afflicted addict doesn't take, maybe the family can get help. I guess more than anything else, I'd like to see that happen with this Recovery is Happening movement, and with hopefully changes to legislation and some open-mindedness. Maybe families as a whole can get better too.
Next, Patrick Allen. Is that right? Allen.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Callahan and I live in long-term recovery. I've heard everybody say, what's that mean to you? Well, what that means to me is that I'm no longer being arrested by the Drug Task Force. I'm no longer in Winona County Jail. And I'm no longer in front of Judge Walters fighting over the legality of my fatherhood. Today I'm a father. Today I'm a dad. I'm no longer in a courtroom deciding whether or not I should see my kids or how much I should pay for child support, but I'm there taking them to baseball games. I'm at basketball games. I'm at all their school events. I got the opportunity when I found recovery to become a man. I never learned that as a child. I never learned that from my father who suffered from addiction. I never learned from that from my mother. I never learned love, compassion, honesty, anything. I learned simple survival. I learned how to feed myself, clothe myself, and survive every day. And when I found recovery, I was very blessed. I got to find this recovery in 2012 when I was looking at 9 years in prison. I didn't want to go to prison, but I knew I'd survive if I did, because I've survived my whole life. You know, you couldn't put me in a situation where I was going to find myself not coming out on the other side one way or the other. But I had an opportunity from my attorney. This is my son back there waving. My attorney gave me an option to go to treatment. And at that time, I never heard of treatment. I never heard of recovery. I never heard of any of that. I've only known people that use drugs, alcohol, and whatnot, and I only knew the wrong way. You know, I always knew how to manipulate situations to come out the best way possible. I spent a lot of my life making a lot of bad decisions. I walk into rooms, I meet people, people see me, I get a lot of second looks. I'm 6'2", 325 pounds, and I'm covered in tattoos. A lot of normal people want to get a second look, you know. And I noticed that. And it's my own choices that have put me into that position. But my own choices have also put me into a chance to tell you that today I live sober, I live clean, and I'm no longer the victim of a narcotic or a victim of an alcohol, or I'm no longer a resident in county jail. That today I'm Patrick Callahan and I'm sober.
Next we have Jim Rumsey.
Hello everyone, my name is Jim Rumsey. I'm in long-term recovery.
Hey Jim.
Where to begin? I got some of my friends, we go to school. We talk to the kids and we ask them, I ask them who likes ice cream. And most of them do. And I said, just start eating ice cream and then take it away. Then you want more. Or you finish the ice cream and you want more. That's somewhat of the addiction. I have that chocolate addiction today still because I want more. Pretty much hopeless in 2007 for me. It was actually April 24th. I got my last DUI. I thought my life was over as I once knew it. Prior to that, in 2004, I went to treatment. I've been in front of Judge Walters and other judges of alcohol and drugs. But I didn't see no recovery. You know, after time and time and time of losing everything, and every time you go in front of the judge, he's 30, 60, 90. Okay, you're going to go to prison now. I don't want to go to prison. And I lost one of the best jobs I ever had in my life in a DUI. Pretty much hopeless. I got the opportunity to be a participant in drug court in 2007, July 5th, and that's my sober date. What do you got to change? That's what I heard, and it was everything. You know what? Drug court saved my butt. You know, when I heard about drug court before in 04 or 05, don't go around these people. They're being watched. So I wouldn't hang around them. Well, that's a good thing for me, because then nobody that I hung around with before would come around. And that's what I needed. You know? Or whether I'm a narc or not, I didn't care. I needed recovery. You know, and it really helped getting checked 4 or 5 times a week. That was huge. You know, it didn't matter, but in a way it did. It was cool to see people come out, but not at midnight. You know, don't you know who I am, what hours I work and stuff? But they taught me responsibility for my actions in drug court. You know, I got to move forward with that. I went through treatment again, and I liked it. And the first 3 things that you had to write down that were most important in your life, and the very first one was sobriety. And that was huge. In 2004, sobriety wasn't even there. You know, and as I graduated in 09 from drug court, and you know, I didn't have a driver's license for 3 years, and I did not drive. I wanted this thing that these other people had, but you know, one of the biggest things, a week prior, starting in 07 in drug court, there was a sober fest, a gathering of sober people. And the most important thing in my life that day was running into a fella who actually graduated, and Tiffany and Bill, and I didn't recognize Bill. And he sat me down and told me how I did it. Gave me his experience and what I should do. And he said, totally be honest with the judge. Do whatever they say and beyond. And I tried to do that. You know, but then he invited me over. Now, this is a recovery house. I thought I felt so safe there. When you went to this house, it was so comforting, and I felt so safe. But I felt alone the first time I went there. And I sat back in the corner, and all these recovery people would come up to me. Asked me who I was, what am I doing, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, they had another gathering. So I went to that, you know, and then I found a clique to hang around these people. Because they had something I wanted. You know, and as a result of that, you know, the 12-step programs are out there, and recovery's out there, and I had to do whatever it took. I mentioned that I lost the most important job in my life. Well, I actually received that back last year. In recovery, we try to make things right. You know, and I like what Pat says. I get to be a dad today, and I get to be an uncle. I get to be a son. I get to be an employee today. You know, and I forgot the letter at home, but I drove 4 hours to go talk to the CEO of the company. And I wrote a letter of amends, and I went through it with Bill, and he told me you need to write this down and make sure. In 4 hours of driving there, man, I'm going, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I learned a lot in recovery of what to do with that, you know. Give it away. But on the way there, he wasn't there. So I left a letter. And a week later, I get a letter in the mail and said, we don't have a problem hiring you at all, as long as you don't drink and you got a driver's license. You know? And that was cool. And 2 weeks after that, I got hired back on with that company. What an amazing thing. And I cannot believe I'm standing in the same room with I used to call them authority figures. I had a problem with authority figures. Teachers, judges, lawyers, mom, dad. Anybody tell me what to do. Today it's a different outlook. It's like, how can I help you? You know, and what you're doing here in Recovery is Happening is just so amazing, so powerful. And I get to see others grow in this thing. You know, but where to go in the teenage years? When I was 19, they told me I was an alcoholic, and I thought I was way too young. You know, and to heed warning, man, I wish I could have done something back then, but I wouldn't have probably met you guys. Who knows? But thank you all for being here.
Hartwig.
He's got one.
He's not. Well, he signed his name. No. Kevin Lewis.
All right. My name is Kevin Lewis. I'm a recovering meth addict.
Hi, Kevin.
Last time I was in a room with the judge and the sheriff and Mr. Nordstrom, that wasn't a good day, but I'm in long-term recovery too. I've been sober 8.5 years, and I always thought I would die alone in my semi or on my Harley at 100 miles an hour. And I still drive truck. I still ride my Harley, but I don't go 100 too many times anymore. But I enjoy life now. I don't have to lie. I don't have to look over at if the cops are behind me and I just had quadruple bypass 7 weeks ago, so I'm not in too good a shape. But I wanted to come tonight to give back to some of the like I rode to Sturgis last year, and of all these people I meet, I see Jim at this sober camp, and that's really cool to see sober people that and I rode 700 miles by myself, and I didn't have to stop and get high to do it. Just easy top in my CD player and hammer down, but when I went to treatment, I did 285 all the way, but I didn't get a ticket either. But I had my brain blew up from meth 9.5 years ago down in Florida. I had 3 brain aneurysms and a stroke, and at that point, I didn't care whether I lived or died. And when I got back, they told me if I did drugs again, it'd kill me. Well, I was a drug addict. I did it again. I ended up in a coma for 88 days and died 7 times, and I came back. And finally, I have a redheaded sister. If you know anything about redheads, she got me into treatment, and that's who I'm staying with now after my heart surgery. So she's still kicking my ass, but making me so I can do the right things. But I went to treatment just to shut everybody up. I had lied to everybody, and I really had nothing else to do. I mean, I couldn't drive truck anymore because I had my brain aneurysm, and I burned every bridge. And now I don't have that. That's a lonely feeling. I thought I would just die in my bedroom with my dog. The last time I got high, I was up for 10 days watching the Weather Channel with my dog, and then I got up and decided I'm going to mow the lawn. It had been raining for 3 days, but I still mowed the lawn. That's how stupid I was. And I was in treatment 3 weeks, and my daughter Amber was in 10th grade, and she wrote a letter for creative writing class about her dad, the drug addict. It was called The Bottom, My Dad, the Drug Addict. And you want something that'll hit you right between the eyes. The bottom paragraph said that, God, if my father chooses meth over me, he's in your hands. And that's when I turned it over. I could not do this by myself, and I don't struggle. I struggle now with I help people. I'm trying to give back, and some people just don't get it. I mean, it took me till I was 45, and I'm one of the lucky ones, but I'm going to keep fighting and keep trying to help.
So that's the end of the list that signed up. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and share? Sure. Oh, okay.
I'm Phyllis Sorensen. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm 71 years old. I've been sober for coming up on 27 years. And I'm delighted and thrilled and grateful to be a woman in recovery, long-term recovery. I have children that look up to me today and love me today. Children that used to say, can't stand your mom, don't want to be around you, just get out of here. Grandchildren who have never seen their grandmother take a drink that are now, they're 13, 18, and 20. I have a daughter who's also an alcoholic. I have a granddaughter that's bordering on being an alcoholic. But what's different today, back when I needed help, it was shamed and I was looked down on. And today I have a daughter who calls me and says, Mom, what am I going to do now? I have a granddaughter that calls me and says, Grandma, help me. You know, nobody was there when I needed that back when, but thank God there were 3 people in my life who loved me enough at that point to do an intervention to get me into treatment. And unfortunately, all 3 of those people have since died, but they all got to see me in long-term recovery before they died. And I give back. I go to a lot of AA meetings. Our community is full of AA meetings. I go to a lot of those. I have a lot of sponsees. I have a lot of people that just call and say, what do I do now? This is what's going on in my life. Can you hear me? Can you listen? And the saddest part that I wanted to share, though, is sometimes the people that my immediate family is incredibly supportive, but my family of origin is the difficult family because I'm still the weirdo of the family while they all drink. I'm the strange one that gets left out while they all drink. And I can remember my first AA sponsor, who has passed away, said to me, recovery can be mighty lonely because when you start changing within your family of origin, oftentimes the ante goes up and it gets tougher. But the beautiful part for me is I realize the healthier I get, sometimes the less they want to be with me because I don't put up with the crap anymore. I just say, I don't need to take this, I'm leaving. And I make sure that I have my own vehicle with me wherever I go because oftentimes things can get uncomfortable and I need to go with a reliable person. And today that's me. 26, 27 years ago, that was not me. The person I hated the most was me. The person I was going to go through the rest of my life with was the one I hated the most. That was me. Today, the person I get to go through the rest of my life with is me, and I love me today. And that's because of recovery.
Hi, my name is Abby Hardert. I live here in Wabasha. And I'm listening to these stories and I'm thinking, well, shit, that's kind of like me. I had a crappy year and I had a major surgery in July. And I kind of liked the medicine that they put me on. And it brought me down to somebody that I never thought I would be. And the day cop came and got me and put me into jail, I didn't ever want to leave that jail. But I'm sure glad I did. I got into a recovery system, and I'm 168 days sober. And I've been in that treatment center for 5 months. But it really kills me that there's nothing in this town that you can turn to. For God knows how many weeks I've been doing this, but for 3 nights a week, I have to get in my car and leave my family and drive an hour, go to my class for 3 hours, and then drive back home. That's ridiculous. No wonder these people are too, forget it, you know. It's a lot easier just to keep doing what you're doing. You know, and I don't know if this is a place to even bring this up. I don't know. But why isn't there something? Yeah, there's the drug court. In my eyes, I've done the drug court. I've done the last 5 months of learning and teaching and sharing my story and whatnot. But damn it, now what do you do? You know, there's nothing. There's got to be something for these people. I mean, if I still have to drive an hour away to go to a 1 hour meeting, I know I'm not going to do it. And I know a lot of other people aren't going to do it. You get home from a long day of work and it'd be nice to drive down the road and go to a meeting that's a little bit more geared towards younger people or a certain population. But I hope something changes and something good comes out of this and people open up their eyes a little bit and that's all.
Still in long-term recovery since the last time I spoke. I just wanted to say there's something that one of the things that at recovery is happening that we talk about quite a bit is stigma, right? And awareness of the chronic brain disease that is substance use disorder. And I was just thinking about the last young lady's comments, and I'm curious, and we're going to offer the panel some time to talk. I'm not going to put you guys on the spot, but I'm just curious if, let's say that I had cancer, for example, would it be acceptable for me to need to drive an hour away to get just a checkup? Not necessarily oncology treatment, not specialized, but just sort of a general checkup or some general awareness. Because one of the things that we know about substance use disorder is that it's a chronic disease, and regardless of the immediacy of treatment, over a period of time, it still requires some checkups, right? So I just thought I'd toss that out there to the group, and also to you guys. Maybe if you guys want to talk a little bit about plans in the community, or what is the plan? Because this is a health problem. What I have is a health problem. The ramifications of that health problem often end me up talking to judges and sheriffs and the like. But at its core, it's a health problem, and no matter where we go, we discover that this health problem is frequently treated as a moral deficiency, and one of our messages is that it isn't. So.
We have someone else who would like to share.
You guys can applaud for me.
I'm Amanda, and last year I ended up relapsing at the end of February, so I haven't been clean that long, but I have 4 different counties worth of stuff: Wabasha County, Winona County, Dodge County, and Howard County, all from last year. I've been 15 years I've used with meth and heroin, and I'm thankfully to be sober, but there is Celebrate Recovery, which has been a great program. Getting involved with the church group here in town. There's Step Group, there's Celebrate Recovery over here, on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock, and that's a wonderful group to go to. And then Friday nights at 6 o'clock, there is a Celebrate Recovery in Winona County that I also go to, and then the step group and Bible studies and stuff. And then I start outpatient treatment here tomorrow morning with Dave, so hopefully I can do it this time. But I've lost all my kids, and I don't have a chance to get them back, so it's been really difficult for me because my 2 boys I'll never see again, so. But I'm thankful to at least be sober today and have that Celebrate Recovery group here in town.
My name is Pastor Paul, and I didn't start Celebrate Recovery, but 9 years ago I heard about it, and I prayed that somebody would step up and lead it. Pastors aren't supposed to lead that kind of thing, and someone was provided to be the leader about 5 years ago. And in the midst of that, I don't struggle with drugs and alcohol. I struggle with control issues. I struggle with people pleasing. And they really have this issue of helping people with hurts, habits, and hang-ups. And being a part of the program I was a part of as well, I was helped in those areas. And I leave in like 3 weeks from this community and moving away. And as I look back, and I'll probably put this in the paper, one of the most meaningful things isn't just starting a church. It's seeing God work through a program like Celebrate Recovery and seeing the need. That's what breaks my heart. I still see needs today, fighting for a marriage, that trying to get one of the guys to go to Teen Challenge. You can't make people do that. But the more that these recovery programs are out and known, and people like you sharing your testimonies, well, that's what it's all about. So I'm thankful for being a part of this county that has been supportive, and hopefully it'll only grow.
Give another opportunity for anyone who would like to come forward and share.
I am Michelle Schweisberger, and I am in recovery. I'm also a current member of the Wabasha County Substance Abuse Court. Being part of this program has been, well, you've heard everybody said everything. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me by far. It was not the worst thing. It was the best thing. My children respect me. I have my children. I've got my family. My mother's sitting here in tears right now. But what a beautiful thing we're bridged. We're repairing, and it's a wonderful thing. My uncle's here, my partner's sister, sponsor. This county, I feel like, and this city has wonderful support for those of us who need help. You have to go look for it sometimes. That's probably the thing. I get help from the county in the form of mental health caseworker, Terrell Sharvin, who's on drug drug court committee. I go to Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center for therapy. I've got a doctor there. I go to AA anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. We do have Celebrate Recovery. We've got a lot of resources right here if people look for them and go get them. I can't believe how embraced I've been from everybody in this community. So I wasn't planning on talking. I'm rambling. Something I do also is I advocate for myself and for other addicts and alcoholics, and I will talk to anybody, anytime about it. And it's amazing how many people come up to me now and ask me about it, ask me about drug court, what it is, how it's worked. They're shocked that I'm in recovery. They're shocked that I've got this problem and how deep it ran. So I do take every opportunity that I can to educate without forcing, but I've received a lot of thanks for that. It's a neat thing, being able to give back. It's pay it forward. So anyway, thanks everybody for being
Good evening. My name is Renee McGrath, and I am a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. I started using when I was 11 years old, and that was in 1971. I got sober when I was 27. That was in 1987. And I couldn't be more proud of who I am and what I stand for. I love being sober. I love being a single mother that is sober. I have learned to be independent, take care of myself, achieve goals, and move forward for not only myself, but for my daughter. When I was 12 years old, we didn't speak of recovery. We didn't speak of alcoholism. We didn't speak of drug addicts. I wish we would have. And I'm hoping that this community will look at it in an area of, I've always said, in my mind, especially that I have a daughter, that you're never too young to be educated or have knowledge of this disease. I started when I was 11, like I said. I look at my daughter who just turned 12. She does not use, she does not drink, she does not smoke. And she knows that she will live in a sober home when she is with me. She does not have to be afraid of driving with me after I've been drinking. She does not have to be afraid of me taking her to the liquor store to get a bottle. She does not have to be afraid of me falling asleep and not taking care of her. I have introduced my daughter to a 12-step program at a very young age. And some of these people sitting here right in this room have met her and seen her at our local AA functions. She loves it. I make sure she does not partake in the meeting itself unless it is an open meeting. She waits for our end of the meeting to come running into the room and say the prayer with us. She knows these people treat her well. They love her, they respect her, and they are nice to her. My daughter will grow up having the knowledge and education. Her choices will be her choices when she can make those choices. And I'm hoping, because of the experience and knowledge and the people sitting in this room, and the time she has heard stories, not only from myself but from others, and has experienced by listening to what drugs and alcohol do to you, I'm hoping she makes a choice not to go down the road I did when I was younger. I just turned 55 on February 21st. My daughter remembered 3 years ago we took my mother, her grandmother, and grandfather over to Rochester to an AA convention. My daughter had the best time ever. This year, on my birthday, it fell on the same weekend, and the weather was not that great. We could not stay over there that night because of circumstances. We had to drive back, and I told my daughter, I said, Jazz, we'll do anything you want. We'll go to Winona, we'll hang out with my sister, we'll go see Grandpa. She was determined to go to that AA function in Rochester. So we drove over in a snowstorm, drove back at 10:30 that night, and she had the best time. We saw Tiffany, her husband, she listened to the speaker, we had a great meal, and she hit that dance floor and she was the last one dancing. Because what she says to me on the way home is, Mom, you can have fun not drinking. I said, you are absolutely right, Jasmine. And if I can instill that in her, and if I can just help one person, if it's not her, if it's somebody else, then it's well worth it. My top priority is me being sober today and tomorrow and thereafter. I know it's a situation that you don't know from 24 hours a day, but you'll learn to handle circumstances much better than you do when you're using. For myself, I'm speaking for myself. And my daughter sees that in me. Believe it or not, she is in the 6th grade and she has kids in there that talk to her about drug use. There's 2 little boys in her class that do not have their parents because of drug use. and they have talked to her about it. And she asked me, Mom, I hope you don't care, but I told them that my mom used to drink and used to use drugs, and she doesn't anymore. I said, Jasmine, you go right ahead. I said, because Mother is proud that she does not. And if by her talking to the kids about positive aspects that can come of it, that makes it even better. So I believe a person is not too young to learn the positive aspects of this disease versus experiencing the negative aspects. And Abby, I love what you had to say because I've thought the same thing for quite some time. I think the drug court is just phenomenally great system, but I do wish Wabasha County had a halfway house. And with that, I am going to pass the move to someone else.
I want to make sure that we give the panel time to share any thoughts or feedback that they have with us. So, not to put you guys on the spot, but share away. No particular order. Or I could tell some stories.
Well, let me just say this. One thing that I want to talk about briefly, there are 3 people in this room tonight that I think deserve recognition. When we started our drug court, and you've heard a lot about it this evening, so I'm not going to say anything more about the operation of it, but when we started it back in 2004, there was only one other drug court in the 11 counties of southeastern Minnesota. It was not universally accepted that this was a good idea. A lot of people called it hug a thug. Tiffany, I never thought of you as a thug, but that's what a lot of, and particularly in the law enforcement community and in the prosecution community. So Jim Nordstrom, who's sitting over there, was the county attorney at the time, and Rodney Barch, who is sitting to my left, the sheriff then and now, and Carrie Kelly, seated to my right, Jim's top assistant, were all on board with this. And we wouldn't have a drug court today, and we wouldn't have had one in 2005 when Tiffany joined it, and it never would have gotten off the ground without the gutsy support of these 3 individuals.
And one thing, I guess, in talking about available resources, there are counties across the state. Winona County is one of those fortunate counties that has the support of their county board. Over the years, we have not had the support of our county board. We receive no funding from our county. When we started our program, we kind of jokingly called it something that was held together by duct tape, because it really was. We had no person that we could hire as a program coordinator. Our probation agents who serve on our drug court have to maintain their own separate caseloads. We had somebody from the sheriff's office who was going out and doing drug testing. And when we took call from our drug court participants, the team members basically passed the phone around. And we all just volunteered our time because we didn't have any money for it. So I think we've come a long way in our 10 plus years, but it has been a struggle. But it's the community support that we've gotten from people like Phyllis and Jarvis, who's tucked away in the back row, who come to our sessions on Thursdays, who offer rides to our participants, because not surprisingly, people who end up with drug offenses and DWI offenses don't have driver's licenses. And so we rely on our community support in order to get people where they need to go, whether it's to treatment or to meetings or even to our court sessions. So as hard as we've worked, I would say that there is a section of this community in this county that has worked just as hard or harder.
Mention the service clubs.
We, Judge Walters and I have entertained a few of our service clubs by speaking to Rotary in Wabasha. We've spoken to Kiwanis in Lake City.
The Carrie and Terry show.
Yeah. Yes, we were very entertaining. But we have been very fortunate. The Rotary Club in Wabasha has donated just recently $425. Rotary in Lake City donated $1,000. And so it's that community support, too, that we appreciate, because when Jim Rumsey talks about needing to be tested 4 or 5 times a week, those little cups are not free. So, we appreciate that kind of support as well.
I would have to say over the years I've certainly had a shift in my own thought process in regards to the criminal justice system and how law enforcement plays a part in that. And it's changed really with having the contact with people that have come through recovery, seeing that other side. And this building has helped. We used to be separated totally in buildings, and the other building today, I can come out in the lobby, I can see somebody yesterday coming back from Teen Challenge to be heard before Judge Walters at halfway through or partway through his recovery. It changed his life. And apologetic for almost killing an officer with his car and some other things, but you can just tell the look on his face and others in recovery that they've changed their lives. So that helps when we have that interaction, when we have this closeness here between the county attorney's office and the court system, and then the people that are coming to court, and to interact with them and see them and get a chance to visit with them in the jail. I think it's made me more compassionate, and I try to share that with my guys, that we need to have compassion for folks that are suffering, but not sympathy, because sympathy could get us hurt, and sympathy might not get the people the help they need. And it helps when folks come up to me in a gas station and say, your deputy gave me a DUI a while back. And I have to tell you that he saved my life. And I wasn't expecting that one. But I do hear that a little bit more now. And it is good to hear it. I pass that on to the deputies and say, you know what, this guy that he's or gal that's got a big time problem, it doesn't help to take them home anymore today. We need to get them help, and you are the source for their help. And so we recognize it as it's not just locking people up, but it is getting them the help. So.
Going down the line here, as Judge Walters said, I mean, Jim and Carrie and Judge Walters were instrumental. So was Roxanne, who's not here today. But I was a public defender serving in Wabasha County when the drug court started here in Wabasha, and saw the difference it was making in people's lives, and felt that in Winona County we really needed that as well. And there was a bit of opposition, right, Judge Walter, to drug court in Winona County. And that's one of the reasons I ran for county attorney, because I had to make a difference in bringing that kind of compassion with accountability, but also having been in the system for 20 years, seeing that people coming in and out of the system, sending people to jail doesn't work. For people who have addiction and mental health issues, and So we started our drug court in 2012, and we're coming up on toward the end of our federal grant that's supporting that. And as Carrie said, we are lucky. Our county board has supported us, but I guess what I'd like to say is that once federal grants run out, we have to work on our sustainability. And we're in a world now where people want, or some of the elected leaders want, that accountability of, okay, what's the bang for the buck? And so sometimes it's, the intangibles. I hear, it's wonderful to hear you speak tonight and know that this is making a difference in people's lives. And I just wish our county commissioners would be here tonight too and hear this, because sometimes you can't say, or you can't justify a good program just by cost alone. It's lives, it's people's families. So we're coming into a period now where we're going to have to start convincing our elected leaders in our county to sustain our program. So in terms of resources, and I would just ask, that you share with your community members to support those kind of, those are initiatives. And yeah, we are lucky in Winona. We've got some pretty good resources, but we, I think, in the outstate area, in medium-sized communities like Winona County, we do lack services. We lack housing, good housing for people coming out of recovery. We lack some of the basic services that we need. So we just have to keep fighting for those.
I know one of the things you wanted to talk about tonight, Tiffany, was the stigma of being in recovery and stigmatizing. And that brings to mind Karen's race for county attorney. I got to tell one story about Karen's predecessor down in Winona. When Karen and others proposed a drug court for Winona County, his response was they weren't going to put gangbangers from Detroit carrying Uzis into a program like drug court. I'd yet to see a gangbanger from Detroit carrying a Uzi. I mean, talk about a stereotype and stigmatizing. Gangbanger from Detroit carrying Uzis. Oh, my God, you scare me, Tiffany. So, change in attitudes in Winona County, at least in the county attorney's office.
And for the sheriff's office, I've been with the sheriff's office for 29 years, and I was the chief deputy for the last 16 until Dave Brandon decided to retire. But I know for myself personally, I come here and I hear all these good stories. Good effects on people's lives is great, and it's a reminder to me, and that's what Sheriff Parks was talking about. Take this back to the staff, and I think this would be good for a lot of them to hear too, that they are making a difference out there whether they're patrolling the roads, making arrests, or going and doing the nightly checks. And I had a change of heart with this. I'll be honest. When they proposed drug court for Winona County, my initial reaction is, oh, that's great. They want us to do what probation used to do. Now the cops got to go and check on people. We got to go out and do the nightly checks and see if they're home, see if they've been drinking or using. Probation always used to do that when I started, and they run out of funding. So now we got to do it. Well, it was an opportunity for the sheriff's office to get an additional man, additional deputy. We started it, and we called him a rural, what was it called? Rural
crime task force or something.
Yeah. So we got an extra deputy. So I was just delighted that I had another staff member. We hadn't increased our staff in years. So okay, he's going to have to be involved in this program, and he was. But what we really did was put him with the Southeast Task Force. So he was out there making arrests, but eventually we got the drug court going, and the sheriff's commitment, Sheriff Brand's commitment, was that we would go out and do the nightly checks, and we would do the checks when they come into the sheriff's office, and again, holding people accountable and making sure that, I think we all need to be watched a little, and that's what we are. We're the watchers. When you see the squad car, when you see the uniform, you slow down, you do whatever. So we're out there trying to make sure everybody's safe, including ourselves. So now we got an extra guy on, and his commitment was to go out and check on people. And we started off slow, in my opinion, but things have been going really good, I think, for almost the last year. We've had success stories, and I've heard some of those. You go to the drug court hearings, and again, I think it would be good for the deputies, because I do believe that they have to have some buy-in here. They can't have the opinion that I did, that we're doing somebody else's job. Why are we doing it? Somebody else used to do it, now we got to do it. And I think my staff, anyway, since I took over, is going out and doing the checks, and I haven't heard one person gripe about doing it. And I think that actually, you're getting to know people, they're getting to know you, and maybe we can have a little change of attitude towards law enforcement, because a lot of people, when you deal with us over and over and over again, you don't have a very good opinion of us. And to tell you the truth, we don't have a very good opinion. So I mean, it's hard when our drug guys are there arresting a lot of people, and now you see them in drug court. So it's a little bit of a different accountability and a little bit different watcher program, I guess.
Yeah, and I just want to, one of the things that we also talk about is sometimes it may, especially if you're not involved in the recovery community, it might sound like when we describe it as a brain disease and we describe it as a chronic health problem, it might sound like we are saying we don't want to be held accountable. That's absolutely not true. I bet if you poll the people in recovery in here that have been involved in the criminal justice system, we say if you break the law, there's consequences, and you got to pay those consequences. But if the thing driving you to break the law is a chronic health problem, let's treat that. Pay your dues to society, but let's treat that. Let's treat the illness that is the underlying cause. So.
And I think in talking about substance abuse and drug court, if you look at Olmsted County has a lot of recovery resources, inpatient, outpatient, 10 meetings, 7 days a week, but we have no drug court. And so the one thing that is represented here is the power that a drug court has. And so what we would like to do this evening, and as a part, is we are having a call to action. I'm a 35-year resident of southeastern Minnesota. I moved to Wabasha County from Olmsted County for 27 days before I was arrested. Had I not moved to Olmsted County, I would have just gotten out of prison on February of 2013. So from 2004 to 2013, I would have spent my life in prison. And through my education, I began to learn what other communities were doing to support recovery, to bring it out from the church basement, to bring it out from behind a closed door, to show communities that recovery works. It is not up to someone else, it is up to us. It is up to the recovery community to make these programs where they don't have any. If you don't have enough meetings here, then start one. If you want a real rational recovery, if you want another all recovery meeting, if you want a woman for sobriety meeting, take it upon yourself to start that meeting, to make things happen, to support your community if it's not here. We can't sit back and wait for others to do it. The time is now, and we are the people, the ones in this room, to make those things happen in our community. So we have here a call to action. So how can you help further the efforts of Recovery is Happening and ultimately solve addiction throughout the community? Invite your friends, family, and coworkers to learn more about Recovery is Happening. Our website is listed there. If you signed the sheet that was going around, you will receive our newsletter. Stop in our office. We're located in Rochester. We serve southeastern Minnesota. So if you need services in this area, it is our plan to get recovery coaches trained here that will be connected with the people who are living in this community, because there are many pathways to recovery, and not everyone recovers in a 12-step program. Not everyone recovers in their church. But we want all those avenues to be known and to be out there so that whatever the pathway is for the individual, they can have the opportunity to begin to get on that. So we would like to meet more people in the recovery community and begin to plan to work together to help others. If you are in recovery, please contact Alyssa Toyer. Her cards are in the back. She is our assistant. You are welcome to stop into the office any day of the week. In Rochester, call, go to our website, www.rih.me. Invest in Recovery is Happening. Invest your time. Invest your money.
We like money.
Yeah, we like money just like drug courts need money. Everything comes down to funding. We also run off of a grant. So when I graduated from college and learned of all these things, I wanted to show my community that recovery works. So I started a walk. How did I do that? I got the community involved. I got people to say, you know what, let's start a recovery walk. They walk for cancer, they walk for breast cancer, they walk for diabetes. I think they walk for just about everything nowadays. But there was no walks for recovery in our area. And so I started a walk. And 5 years later, the state was putting out a grant for someone to open a recovery community organization. I am not a grant writer. But I used my resources, and I put together a work group, and we submitted a grant, and here we are today creating a recovery community organization to build in the supports where people think they have none. You know, reach out, call us. We invite you all. I have with me today a call to action. I've been a part of the Olmsted County Justice Council and Recovery is Happening's call to action to bring what we would like to call a recovery court to Olmsted County. And we also have had a lot of trouble with our board not being on board. And so I would ask, I have all their numbers and their emails, and if you could just flood their phone and flood their emails, I think it might help sway their decision to want to make a call to get that in their budget to have a recovery court in Olmsted County. So I'm going to pass this around. I thank you all so much for being here tonight.
On that note, there's one other thing I want to add, and that is the business of, there are plenty of people in this room that are in recovery, have family members in recovery, or are in some way associated with recovery. I think one of the most important things we can do is talk to other people about our recovery and share that. So we've shared it in this room and we've shared it with you guys. But I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with people just out in the community talking about recovery. So that's thing one. Thing two is hold your politicians accountable. I always, whenever I say my thing, I say I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I always make sure to say I'm a registered voter. If you're a registered voter, vote. Vote your conscience. But one of the key differences that they found about recovery, about the recovery community, is that we have no political voice. We don't vote as a unit. And one thing that I can tell you is happening in Olmsted County, at least, where the county commissioners are not on board, is that we're very, very much engaged in the voting process and registering people to vote and vote their recovery. We're calling it their recovery conscience, because it matters. Votes matter, and don't get me started on that. One last thing, you have in front of you evaluations. Is there something else? Melissa's giving me the. Okay, we're really close to time. You certainly can. Let me just, one thing. I just want to make sure we need those evaluations. So There will be a person at the door checking you to make sure that you've done it. If not, jail. Right over there. We've got law enforcement is here, so I'm just saying.